The countdown hit 0, and something in Trelvex's hand cracked audibly, like dry twigs snapping underfoot. He flexed his crystalline fingers, locked the shear vectors, and cleared the Class 12 void drill for launch. 84 recruits filled the transport's staging harness, massive shoulders and silicon hides packed shoulder to shoulder. In the back corner sat a single human girl, 50 kilograms of soft bone wrapped in a puffy plant fiber coat that looked more suited to a farm than a warship. The instructors had already flagged her for medical extraction. Nobody expected her to finish the first rotation. 50 kilograms, a junior officer muttered, scanning her profile. Her skeleton will fracture before the second rotation ends. Piper didn't look up. She reached into her coat, pulled out a battered gray notebook and a mechanical pencil, and clicked the cap twice. Snap, snap. I still don't understand how she knew. Watch what the instruments missed. The chamber fired. Gravity vanished, then slammed back as a brutal 6G twist. The Cargathians thrashed against their harnesses, the fluid in their inner ears sloshing into useless directions, their massive bodies convulsing against the restraints. Beside them, the Zulkresh lost shape entirely, their liquid membrane forms sagging into silver puddles across the floor grates, no longer able to hold a body at all. Under the alarms, a thin hum rose from the back corner, some flat little tune about a farm and its animals. Piper's monitor flatlined, 62 beats per minute, steady, unmoving. Catatonic, Trelvax said, and waved the medical drone forward. Prep a retrieval. Then the real failure hit, not the simulation. The station's dampeners tore loose with a groan that shook the deck, and the transport dropped into an unscripted 8G dive, spinning hard toward the planet below. Every primary screen in the monitoring tier went black at once. Report, Trelvax snapped at the console. Nothing answered. He slammed his palm against the panel and it stayed dead, glass and static. Around him, officers scrambled between dying stations, shouting numbers that meant nothing anymore. One grabbed his arm. "The core is gone, evaluator. We have no telemetry. We are blind." "Then find another way to see," Trelvax said. On the transport, cadets screamed or dissolved or simply stopped moving. The Scarrick pilots, built for clean math and clean gravity, folded under numbers that no longer computed. A Cargathian beside Piper vomited into his own harness, unable to tell up from down. She didn't look at him. She didn't look at anyone. Trelvax switched to the independent thermal lens, the only backup that still worked. Green light bled across the wreckage of the cabin. He found her heat signature in the corner, exactly where the flatline marked her dead. She wasn't dead, she was moving. Her hands unclipped the harness in one clean motion. Her feet found the shifting deck plating like she already knew where it would tilt next. The stillness the machine had called catatonia was something else entirely. It was concentration. It was a predator holding perfectly, terribly still. "She's alive," Trelvax said, and no one in the tier answered him because no one else was looking at the right screen. He leaned closer to the thermal feed, joints cracking under the strain of his own grip on the console edge. The navigation core looped a single error across every dead display. No sensory input. 84 elite pilots wept or seized or lay still in their harnesses. Piper planted a boot against an unconscious Cargathian twice her size and shoved him clear of the command seat. He hit the deck without a sound. She pressed her forehead to the thick quartz viewport. The glass was cold enough to sting. Below and ahead, the planet's curve rolled past in a long gray smear. And past that, the stars sat exactly where stars always sat, unmoved by any of this. She opened the notebook against her knee and started drawing. Lines first, then angles, then a rough grid stretched across the page in pencil. Scritch, scritch, scritch. The humming came back louder now, the same tune, 3 notes repeating while the hull groaned around her. "What is she doing?" an officer asked. Trelvax didn't have an answer. He had spent a career reading dashboards, and there was no dashboard for a girl doing geometry with a pencil while a warship fell. The dive steepened. Alarms stacked on alarms. On the bridge, someone called for evacuation orders that would never reach anyone in time. A second officer pointed at the thermal feed, voice cracking. "She's not praying, sir. She's plotting a course." Trelvax gripped the edge of his console, joints cracking under his own weight, and watched the girl fill page after page with numbers no machine had given her. Around her, the last of the Zulkresh finished collapsing, and the Cargathians had stopped fighting the restraints entirely, too disoriented to do anything but groan. She looked up once, checked the horizon line against the viewport frame, and went back to the page. Not panic, not hesitation, just work. "The instruments aren't malfunctioning," Trelvax said slowly, to nobody and everybody. "They simply stopped recognizing that a pilot was still operating." Piper closed the notebook, tucked it against her ribs, and crawled toward the manual steering yoke bolted into the floor, a piece of hardware nobody had touched in longer than anyone could remember. She braced her boots against the frame and pulled herself upright against the G-force trying to fold her in half. She clicked the pencil forward one more click, jammed it behind her ear, and gripped the yoke with both hands. Below her, through the quartz, the planet's edge cut a hard line against black space. She lined the nose of the ship against that line, checked it against the fixed points of 3 unmoving stars, and began to pull. The thrusters answered in short, uneven punches under her hand. Thump, thump, thump. The ship's wild tumble shifted, degree by degree, into something that almost resembled a curve. She checked the horizon again, adjusted half a degree, and pulled harder still. "She's steering," an officer said, disbelief flattening his voice. "She's actually steering it." For 84 seconds the entire tactical tier went silent, every eye locked on a girl correcting a dying ship by eye and instinct, while a burned-out quantum core sat useless behind her. The gray smear of atmosphere thinned. The stars stayed fixed. She matched the two against each other again and again, small pulls, small corrections, never once glancing at a dead screen. She aligned the nose with the open corridor above, and dumped the last of the main engine's fuel in one burn. The ship cleared the atmospheric trap by less than 3 kilometers, close enough that the hull groaned in protest the whole way through. The pencil behind her ear snapped clean under the final punishing thrust, the sound almost lost beneath the engines. 6 hours later, the 84 recruits were carried out on gravity stretchers, most of them unable to stand, their inner ears wrecked past easy repair. Trelvax found Piper sitting alone on an iron crate near the maintenance dock, calmly peeling the skin off a small green legume. "The mathematics you performed," he said, "should not have been possible without a working core." She shrugged, still peeling. "Oh, I just got lucky, sir. My granddad taught me dead reckoning on a fishing boat back home. If the power goes out, you find the horizon and you count. It's basic." "Basic," Trelvax repeated. His voice held none of the certainty it had carried at the start of the drill. "What kind of animal counts stars instead of screaming?" he asked, more to himself than to her. Piper only shrugged again and bit into the legume. Trelvax's joints cracked once quietly as his hand closed and opened. "We measured your bones," he said. "We called you fragile. We never thought to measure what built you." He turned and walked back toward the tower without waiting for a reply. Behind him, High Command was already drafting the order that would rewrite the hegemony's threat manual by nightfall, an order nobody would celebrate and nobody would forget. On the command tier, under a thin plate of sealed glass, a broken half-inch of pencil graphite sat mounted beside a placard nobody had bothered to make elaborate. A tiny black shard of carbon, worn smooth at one end, that had outnavigated a dead quantum core and brought 30 tons of dying ship home by less than 3 kilometers to spare.